You know, for more than 20 years, John Cena was basically a real-life superhero in WWE. His whole identity was built on three little words: never give up. But then, in his very last match, that entire legacy got flipped completely upside down in one single shocking moment. And we're about to break down exactly how, and more importantly, why it all went down.
So you gotta ask, right? It's the question every single fan was thinking about. After this legendary Hall of Fame career, how is the ultimate good guy, the face of a generation, supposed to take his final bow? What's the last page of his story gonna look like? Well, the answer was something that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. He gives up. The man whose entire brand was built on fighting through impossible odds, on never ever quitting, he did the one thing we all thought was impossible. He tapped out. And that moment, man, it sent an earthquake through the entire wrestling world. And to really get why the backlash was so huge, you have to understand just how much this ending flew in the face of everything John Cena ever stood for. Okay, just look at this contrast here. It says it all. For 2 decades, we watched this guy take an unbelievable amount of punishment, but he would never, ever, ever submit. But here, in his retirement match, he doesn't just tap out to a sleeper hold, he does it with this little, weirdly calm smile on his face. It was a moment that just completely contradicted his entire character, and that smile, well, that's what made it so baffling. Someone on Reddit absolutely nailed the feeling in that arena. They compared it to when The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak was broken. The whole crowd just fell into this stunned silence. That's not just disappointment, you know. That's genuine, heart-in-your-throat shock, the kind you just don't see very often anymore. And that shock? Well, it didn't last long. It turned into pure, raw anger. And not just in the stands, but to some degree, behind the curtain too. The reaction was fast, and it was intense. Oh, the fans in that building did not hold back. You could hear chants of bullshit clear as day. They were letting Gunther have it with "F you Gunther" chants. But here's the real kicker, the thing that tells you how they really felt. They booed WWE's Chief Content Officer Triple H when he came out to raise Cena's arm. The fans felt totally betrayed. They just wanted one last heroic win for their guy. Now, backstage, things were apparently a little more complicated. Word is the locker room was kind of split. Now, nobody was furious, but a lot of the wrestlers were really hoping their hero would get that fairy tale ending, you know? Go out on top. But then you had the other side of the coin. The creative team and other folks who understood the business side of it. They knew this was about building the future, not just celebrating the past. And the man in the middle of it all? Gunther? Oh, he wasted no time at all pouring gasoline all over that fire. The very next show, he walks out, grabs a mic, and brags about being the guy who made John Cena give up, just twisting the knife for every heartbroken fan. It was pure old-school villainy, and it was only the beginning.
So this all leads to the big question, right? Why? Why would WWE do this? Why would they risk infuriating their entire fan base to end a legend's career like this? Well, the answer is actually found in one of professional wrestling's oldest and most important traditions.
It's a thing in the business called going out on your back. And the whole idea is that a true legend, a true professional, doesn't get a selfish win on their way out the door. No, they use their final match to pass the torch. By losing to a younger, rising star, they basically hand over all their credibility and give that person a rocket ship of a push into the main event. And Cena is in some pretty incredible company here. I mean, this is a who's who of wrestling royalty. Stone Cold Steve Austin, the biggest star of his era, lost his final match to The Rock. The legendary Ric Flair lost his career to Shawn Michaels. And then Shawn Michaels himself lost his career to The Undertaker. See the pattern? Cena was just honoring one of the most sacred traditions in the business.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. Here's the man who made the call, Triple H, explaining the logic himself. He says, John has done that his entire career. You do what is right for the business. And that's the thing about Cena. He has always been a company man. This final act was just his ultimate gift to the future of WWE.
So really, when you break it all down, it's a simple but incredibly powerful formula. An icon says goodbye. They lose clean to a rising star. That new star gets a massive, passionate, negative reaction from the crowd. That's the heat we're talking about. And just like that, a new era begins. John Cena's story had to end so that Gunther's story could truly, officially begin. And man, what a beginning it has been. This one single victory has basically transformed Gunther from just a top wrestler into something way more important and way more dangerous, a true generational villain. Okay, so to really get Gunther's new role, you have to understand this idea of heat. In wrestling, it's kind of backwards. If the entire arena hates your guts, if they're booing you out of the building and chanting nasty things, that means you're doing your job perfectly as a bad guy, as a heel. Those loud boos, that's the sound of money.
And that's exactly what WWE was betting on. The raw, visceral hatred that Gunther got for retiring John Cena is the kind of heat that doesn't just fade away. It's pure, main event level villainy. This one match might have just created their top bad guy for the next decade.
And this isn't his first rodeo either. Gunther's building quite the resume. He's now put 2 Hall of Famers on the shelf, Goldberg and now John Cena. His new status as the Legend Killer is locked in. So you have to wonder, who's next? Well, after that intense stare-down backstage, it sure looks like another legend, AJ Styles, could be in his crosshairs.
And here's Triple H one more time, just hammering the point home. This wasn't an ending. It was a very, very deliberate beginning. You could say the final scene of the John Cena movie was actually the opening scene for Gunther's.
So when it all comes down to it, while so many fans really wanted that feel-good Hollywood ending, WWE was playing the long game. The choice to have Cena tap out was a calculated, strategic move. It was all designed to build their next major villain and launch the whole company into its next chapter.
Which leaves us with one last, kind of mind-bending question. For 20 years, John Cena built a legacy and inspired millions with the mantra, "Never give up." But in the end, was it his one single act of giving up that will actually have the biggest, most lasting impact on the future of WWE? It's wild to think about.